Anyone is likely to scare themselves to death if they wake up and find a skeleton, a ghost and a mummy in front of them. Luckily for Will, the three of them decide to raise him and teach him various aspects of life. Slowly he grows up and the day approaches when he must go on his own journey. He has to swear an oath to the god of his choice, and subsequently he will receive his blessings according to the strength of that oath. If you are a fan of the show and are looking for more anime like the Faraway Paladin that takes us on an adventurous journey of an overpowered main character, then here are some similar recommendations for you. Young Prince Baji is tired of the people calling him the useless prince. Yes, he may not have the physical prowess required in a king, but his unwavering determination is unmatched. One day he comes upon a shadow-like creature called Cage and forms an unlikely friendship with him. After that, Baji decides to go on a journey accompanied by his friend so that he can improve his qualities as a king. Ranking of Kings follows the same base as the Faraway Paladin, where the main character ventures into an unknown adventurous journey.
僕は、龍馬竹林、11歳。
By the grace of the gods was a perfect comfy show, in that nothing bad ever happens in it. It's the best isekai anime to watch for types of viewers who love slow-paced and comfy slice-of-life series. In it, Ryoma Takebayashi is reincarnated into the body of a child and meets personally with the gods who seem to be the first people in his life to actually praise him for all his hard work back on Earth. From there, Ryoma wakes up in his new body, in his new world, and finally starts to live a life surrounded by compassionate people who care about him. It's comfy, it's a bit sappy, it's not the best adaptation, but it's oh so enjoyable to watch and is a great little mood booster as well. When Subaru Natsuki goes out for a midnight snack run, he suddenly finds himself transported to another world. As a bewildered teen in a land of swords and magic, he wanders around and ends up attacked by thugs. After being saved by a mysterious woman, he agrees to help her get back something that was stolen. Unfortunately, it ends in both their deaths. With his dying breath, he finds that he possesses the power of revival, escaping his death by repeating the last few hours. Both Re:Zero and the Faraway Paladin are tied together by being isekai shows. However, it is more than just that. They are isekai shows that clearly put a lot of effort into creating the world they take place in. It is the surprising aspects of uncovering the world as the characters do that make each show wonderful. Next up is yet another isekai story about a main character who has the whole world fall into his lap, Tsukimichi Moonlit fantasy. But, for some reason, this one goes so out of the park with how overpowered its protagonist, Makoto Mizumi, is that it circles back around to being hilariously enjoyable. It's both a standard isekai and also a bit of a reverse isekai too, considering where Makoto's parents are originally from. Honestly, it has more in common with Reincarnated as a slime than it does with the Faraway Paladin. But both shows do put a lot of emphasis on the magical concepts and gods of their respective fantasy settings. Either way, it's a great show with a lot of laughs to be had. Next up is yet another isekai story about a main character who has the whole world fall into his lap, Tsukimichi Moonlit fantasy. But, for some reason, this one goes so out of the park with how overpowered its protagonist, Makoto Mizumi, is that it circles back around to being hilariously enjoyable. It's both a standard isekai and also a bit of a reverse isekai too, considering where Makoto's parents are originally from. Honestly, it has more in common with Reincarnated as a slime than it does with the Faraway Paladin. But both shows do put a lot of emphasis on the magical concepts and gods of their respective fantasy settings. Either way, it's a great show with a lot of laughs to be had. The greatest assassin on earth lived only to be a tool by those that wished to wield his mastery. That is, until they decided that he was no longer needed and ended his life. By the grace of a goddess, this masterful man was reincarnated into a new world where he is asked to kill a hero that will later bring about the end of that world. Deciding to finally live for himself, this man, now named Luttu Athada, puts his skills as a killer to the test with foes who wield real magic. While the world's finest assassin is more guns and magic than the swords and magic of the Faraway Paladin, it is an isekai series that follows a man reborn into a fantasy world and trained to be great warrior from birth. They both also put an emphasis on the main characters wanting to live better than they previously had. After being hit by a truck and killed, a young man was reincarnated into a new world as a baby. He was found and raised by a legendary sage named Merlin and given the name Shin. However, while Merlin taught him his skills and Shin grew into an extremely powerful mage, living in the forest failed to teach Shin common sense and other people's skills. Both series feature men reincarnated into a new world as a baby. They are then raised by sages and taught magic. However, in Wise Man's Grandchild, he is really only taught magic and is less socially well-adjusted. Wise Man's Grandchild is, unfortunately, a more standard isekai show complete with a harem element. In the fantasy city of Arario, there is a massive labyrinth underneath it. For brave adventurers, glory and fortune can be found within. In order to tackle the challenging monsters inside, adventurers join guilds of strong gods and goddesses. However, for newbie adventurer Bel Cranel, no good guild will have him, except for Hestia, a goddess with no followers. Together they team up to grow strong and find glory. Both series feature worlds in which you are expected to basically pledge yourself to a god in order to earn boons from them. Interestingly enough, both series also end up following a guy pledging himself to a goddess that has kind of fallen out of fashion with people. Although is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon is more a standard adventure show instead of doing a deity's bidding. Mushoku Tensei, jobless reincarnation needs to be the first example on this list, primarily because the actual author of the Faraway Paladin actually confirmed on Twitter that they took a lot of inspiration from Mushoku Tensei when writing the Faraway Paladin. As far as the anime adaptation of jobless reincarnation is concerned, it's insanely high quality, comparable to something like Made in Abyss's adaptation or something similar. The actual story itself obviously has a fair bit in common with the Faraway Paladin, though the tone and characters differ greatly. That said, be aware, there are a lot of mature themes in Mushoku Tensei, just something to know before starting it up. That time I got reincarnated as a slime or slime reincarnation for short doesn't have a ton in common with the Faraway Paladin, outside of both of them being isekai, or at least, that's how it seems on the surface. Looking deeper, Rimuru is a character who was unsatisfied with the way he lived previously and is now trying to live better in his second life, like William. And both of these MCs do eventually find themselves with a whole bunch of people to look after and a city to maintain, so maybe they have more in common than it originally appeared. Plus, the anime adaptation of slime reincarnation is absurdly good, so much so that it's more enjoyable than the source material manga, which is saying a lot since the source manga is incredible in its own right. Well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video on anime similar to the Faraway Paladin. I know I did, I have a lot of binge watching ahead of me. And I'm sure you do too. I'm sure your list just expanded out, or who knows, maybe you're all caught up. And when you complete all of the anime mentioned on the list. But anyways, if you think that we missed anything on this list, then be sure to leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like the video if you like it and subscribe to the channel for more anime content like this. Anyways, I'll catch you later, see you in the next one.